Hello there, and welcome to another episode of the ACE's webcast series, where in this series we look at a number of topics proposed from lots of our emerging professionals. And today we're joined by Farai, who's going to talk to us about her experience of moving to a new country to work abroad. So Farai, I'm going to pass over to you to do a quick introduction about yourself, and then we'll crack on with the podcast.
Thanks, Kat. Hi, everyone. My name is Farai Mwashita, and I am an international project engineer working at CBRE. I am the vice chair for London and Southwest for the ACE Emerging Professionals Committee.
Great, thanks, Farai. So today's episode, then, we're going to talk about your experience when you moved abroad. So let's start off, first of all, with talking about where you actually moved, because I think that'll really help frame our conversation today, and also what year you moved, because given the kind of times we live in with COVID now, just to sort of caveat this whole conversation of where it was and when you went, and then we can dig a little deeper into it.
Yeah, wonderful. So I relocated to live in Dubai in the United Arab Emirates, and I relocated there from the end of 2018 and moved back to London in July of 2020.
Great. Okay, so just before the lockdown. So it sounds
yes.
Quite a nice amount of time as well. So let's have a little chat then about what inspired you to move abroad then, because I think a lot of people out there listening might be considering a move abroad and maybe want to know, what were your first initial thoughts around why you wanted to move?
Yeah, sure. So for as long as I started my career in engineering, I always said I wanted to work abroad, and that abroad was either going to be America, Canada, somewhere in Sub-Saharan Africa or the Middle East. So when I got offered a job with my previous company, which was Arab, I knew that they had so many offices in different parts of the world. And when I turned up for my interview, they asked me a question, which is like, oh, why do you want to work for Arab? And I said, one of the reasons is I will have an opportunity to relocate and work abroad with this company. So that is, in a nutshell, how this happened.
Great. So you literally said from the get-go in the interview.
Yeah.
So they knew what they were guessing when you were secured the role.
Absolutely. I didn't want to surprise them 6 months in. Oh, by the way, no, they knew from the get-go that if they're going to offer me a job, I was going to approach them and ask them 6 months in to say, oh, I saw this opportunity online. Can I move abroad? Yeah.
Right. So I suppose you've sort of moved into a business. They know what your intentions are in the company. So how long did it take from your sort of initial induction at Arab to getting the opportunity to move abroad? And I suppose for the listeners, what they might be interested in, what did that process look like? Did you have to search it, or was there an internal sort of application process? Obviously, noting it'll be different company to company, but what was your experience?
Yeah. So for me, it's every week there is an internal release of jobs worldwide, and they're listed by region. And from that list, you can see what's happening all over the world, where they've got vacancies that suit your current role, or if you think you've got some skills and you want to develop them, there's a role that you like. For example, if you want to go from being an engineer to PM and you think, okay, I might be able to do this job at this entry level, so you apply for it. But for me, it was a case of my manager just remembering that I said I wanted to work abroad, and there was an opportunity to go and do some project management at Dubai airports. And he reminded me and he said, would you like to do this? And this was 7 months into my role. And I was like, yeah, okay, I would be interested. And that's how it happened. So he knew what I said to him, and I wanted to be part of that transition and move abroad. And that's how it happened. But normally, they advise people to start looking for international assignments 9 months after their induction. So mine was 7 months, 2 months shy of the 9 months policy. So yeah, they were a bit flexible.
Okay, great. And I suppose that's quite a short amount of time from when you've just joined the company. Did you have to have any sort of prerequisites or sort of a certain level of achievement, or what was the kind of application process like for you?
So my situation might be different from a few people that are listening to this podcast and want to move. So because my move is regarded as internal, because I was moving with a company, the company handled the whole visa process, application process for me. which made it really, really easy. But that didn't mean I didn't also do my research, because I wanted to make sure that it wouldn't disrupt me starting my job when I moved to Dubai. So the prerequisites that they need, especially if you're an engineer, they still look for someone who is chartered. Not sure why, but they do. You need the documents that you need. You need to share proof of your birth certificate, your passport, in terms of qualifications, your chartership if you're chartered, your master's degree, your bachelor's degree, and just proof of ID. And yeah, that's what you need to do. And application letter from, or supporting letter from your company or the company that's recruiting you if you apply for yourself. If the work is doing it, just give them those documents and they do everything on your behalf.
Okay, great. So it really sounds like doing it through a company is probably
the
easiest way to do it. So maybe a piece of advice is look at the company if you're currently in and see if they offer something, would you say?
Absolutely. I'll probably say yes, because even when it came to the visa application fees, to this day, I don't know how much they paid for me or on my behalf for the visa application. But I know that if you're trying to do it yourself, they might rack up, because you need to pay for health insurance to show them that you've got your health insurance. Just even for someone to put a stamp on your visa application, that's money. Proof of accommodation, I think, as well, you need to show them. So it's those things that you need to just be aware of when you do it by yourself. So if you happen to be in a position where you're working for a company that has got these type of international transfers or international mobility, as some companies call them, I would definitely advise to go through them.
Yeah, definitely. I think as well, in light of Brexit and sort of different regulations around working visas, it's probably a good place to go to a company that's got prior experience of that international mobility. So
Absolutely.
you managed to move abroad in 2018, you said. What was what was the actual living experience like, and what was that build up to it and the transition of moving abroad? I mean, how many suitcases did you have and what did you
We don't want to know how many suitcases I had. So, let's just say I had a lot. But so what made me actually move to Dubai was I had traveled via Dubai in May of 2018. And on my way back to London, I stopped over and spent time with some friends. And I just remember saying, I'm going to move here. I need to move here, because I just loved the culture. I loved the people. I just loved the city, how clean it was, how there was a sense of freedom in the air when I was there. So that to me was like, yeah, you need to move there. So when I actually then finally moved there to live there, it was amazing. It was amazing. I am a person who's very outgoing. So in terms of like networking and making friends, it comes naturally to me and it was easy for me. That's not to say that's everyone. So my advice is, when you do relocate, not just to Dubai, to any country, do make the effort to make new friends, because it would just really help in terms of like people making recommendations of where to go food shopping, what restaurants to go to, things to do, understanding the local policies, the government legislation. It really does help and will make your life easy. So living there was a massive, massive experience, which I absolutely loved. And working there was an eye-opener, because I was working at a government sector, which is predominantly local people. So it was an eye-opener in the sense that the working hours are completely different to private sector. That was number one. Number two, I was surrounded by people from different backgrounds. I worked at the airport with people who had masters and PhDs in psychology, but they worked at the airport because they're doing like behavioral patterning, studying people. I worked with chemical engineers. I don't know what they were doing at the airport, but they had a job and it was nice working with them and learning about them. And it was really amazing to actually understand that work culture, how it differs from the UK to Dubai. So a good example is in the UK, the meeting starts at 10. Everyone, okay, let's start the meeting. Point number one on the agenda. There's no salutations, nothing. The meeting starts at 10. People are walking. How are you? I'm good. How is everything going? 10 minutes in, we're still greeting each other. And then the meeting starts finally a quarter past. So that difference in like business gets done, projects gets delivered, but there isn't a sense of rush, which I absolutely liked. At the same time, sometimes it's like, oh, I don't really have time. Let's get onto it. But it was amazing.
So would you say you've taken some of that experience now you're back in the UK, or would you say is your biggest takeaway from a professional point of view?
My biggest takeaway from a professional point of view is literally there is differences in every single one of us. And in order for a project to succeed, you need that mixture of people. You need the people who are straight on to time management, meticulous, line item by line item. You also need people who balance those people by reminding them that it's not all that serious. You can take a step back and relax. We will still be able to deliver. You need to work. You just need to be open-minded and be welcoming of people's ideas. Yeah.
Yeah. So throwing yourself in a completely different culture with completely different.
Absolutely.
Really sort of made you value the sort of importance of diversity in a team. So.
Absolutely.
Great. So I suppose we've talked about the professional experience. From a personal point of view then, if you're happy to share, what would you say the biggest learning has been that you took away from, your own self-development of moving and living abroad?
One of them is it's okay, no matter how old you are, to make a new group of friends, because you never know what you've been missing out by moving in the same circles. You need to, like you just say, diversify the circles that you move in. You need to diversify your interests, your hobbies, because by meeting new people, you get introduced to new things, you adapt that, you try those things, and yeah, you make new friends. When you move to a new place, I would advise you to become 95% a yes person. By that, if people invite you somewhere, no matter how tired you are, just go there for maybe 30 minutes and an hour. And you never know, you walk away with a friend, you meet someone, you will learn something. So that was the biggest take for me, that, diversify. It's good to diversify, move abroad, throw yourself in the deep end, get out of your comfort zone, and you'll be surprised as to how that experience brings out something in you that you didn't think you were capable of doing. And for me, I didn't realize I'd be capable of saying goodbye to my family and moving abroad for nearly 2 years.
Wow, yeah, no, I suppose does time fly when you were there, or how did this sort of time go?
Time actually flew, because when I was there, I don't know if our listeners know this, but the weekend in the Middle East is Friday and Saturday. So when I was communicating with my family on a Sunday when I was at work, they're like, oh, we're doing this on a weekend. So Sunday to Thursday, even though it was still working 5 days, there was something about that weekend, that whole week, that makes it feel like 3 days. But they've changed it now. They've got the same weekend as the Western world. It's now Saturday and Sunday. But time completely flew. And I made the most of it. I was doing something almost every weekend.
Oh yeah, I didn't know about the weekends, but yeah, it sounds like you definitely threw yourself out of the comfort zone. And
yeah.
So would you say you've come back and have like new employers or your old team or sort of people in your professional network now looked at you with, I suppose, a different sense of experience, or how has it enabled your CV, let's say, or how do you sort of, have you taken from this experience that helps you on your sort of career?
It's really, really helped in terms of navigating through the industry, getting opportunities, because I think we underestimate the importance of just getting experience in a different part of the world. The value in that is just one thing. It shows how good your people skills are, whether it's people management, interpersonal skills, or just being able to just adapt in a different environment. And a lot of companies really look for that in people, that people who adapt so well. Adaptability is key in the world that we live in. Like, look, at the past 2 years, we woke up one day and everything was shut down. We've had to adapt. Some people have done it well, some people have struggled. And I think the same applies to work. So for me, I would definitely say my experience of working in the Middle East have been a major advantage in terms of my career progression.
Great. No, it sounds like a really positive experience you've had. So sort of lead on to my sort of penultimate question is if you could sort of turn back to Farai in 2017, 2018 before you went on this experience, and you could sort of give a piece of advice about something that you might do slightly differently, what would that sort of sound like if you were talking to your previous self?
So number one is I because I told myself that I want to move to Dubai and the opportunity came about, I fell in love with the idea of moving there. I was so excited that I neglected some crucial key things in terms of me moving there. One of them being looking at pay packages and making sure that I negotiate the best pay package for myself. It wasn't bad, but as time went on and I realized how much people around me were earning, I realized that I shortchanged myself. So I would definitely say, yes, get excited, be happy you got the opportunity, but at the same time, make sure that you do your research and make sure you negotiate the right pay for you. The second advice for me is, yeah, I'm glad you did it. I'm glad you went there. And the people listening, again, do your research in terms of cost of living, understanding how people live there, start understanding the laws, the policies, and the rules, because you don't want to be on the wrong side of the law. And luckily for me, I was never on the wrong side of the law, but you read a lot about it. So it's always, don't be that naive person who go out there and then say, but back in my country, we're allowed to do A, B, C, and D. Yeah, don't be that ignorant person. And this is not advice to me, but it's advice to anyone who is listening. Listen to your gut. If you really believe in something, work hard to achieve it because you know your potential. Push yourself, go for it. Do your research. If you want to move abroad, do your research about cost of living, wages, how the local people live their life. And before making that big step of moving there for maybe 2 years to 3 years, try and go there on holiday for a minimum of 2 weeks. Don't be a tourist. Live with the local people or live the way local people live their life. That way you get a sense of whether the place is for you and you'll be able to make a really sound decision for yourself.
Yeah, sounds like a really great summary of advice there. And I definitely hear, go with your gut. I think with these sorts of things, it's great to have the opportunity, but then you'll kind of know intuitively if it's going to be the right move for you. And as well,
Yeah,
probably a final point is around sort of the sponsoring company is to sort of make sure that if you're going to be moving internally to just check out what
absolutely.
are.
And yeah, check the sponsoring company, what they're doing, and really do ask them, because one thing that the pandemic has done is a lot of benefits that companies used to provide for people. They can't provide a lot of those anymore. So really check what the benefits are, what the packages are, and do the maths and see if it's worth it. And if it's not, try and negotiate as much as you can. But yeah, ask yourself, why am I moving there? Is it to just have a good time and live life, or is it for work and life? And you'll be able to make a really good decision.
Great. Thanks, Farai.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure talking.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Likewise. I've enjoyed this.
Great. And I suppose to the listeners, just a final point, if you are interested in hearing more about Farai's story, or just to hear a bit more about the ACE and what we do here as part of the Emerging Professionals group, we'll put some of our contact details in the show notes below where you can get in touch with us to have a conversation. But yeah, thanks for listening, and tune in to a future episode coming soon.